What's happening? Thanks for joining me. As always, it is much appreciated on this Friday, and we actually start this show today with some breaking news. Get to that in a second. First, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to this YouTube channel and this podcast. Spotify, Apple Pods, you can rate and review. Executive decision that I'm going to make, okay? I'm making an executive decision with this podcast through the rest of training camp after today. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, we're actually going to launch live at 4 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern. Why? Well, first of all, I feel like we're a little bit behind the news. Doing a podcast every other day, practices start at 11 a.m. It just doesn't make much sense to do this at 11 a.m. as practice is going on. Other people are breaking things down live. I'm not there live. So I want to do it at 4 o'clock through training camp, through the joint practice, which is August 13th against the Eagles on that Tuesday. So from Monday, this coming Monday, through August 12th, which happens to be my birthday, we will go live at 4 p.m. Eastern so we can react to the day's news, the day's practice, and also so I can get out there to camp a little bit more often. So that's the new plan, only for the next couple of weeks. From Monday through Monday, August 12th, we will go 4 p.m. live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay, let's get to the breaking news after you gave us that like, the comment, and the subscription. Field Yates just reported just a little while ago that Jabrill Peppers is getting a 3-year, $24 million contract extension. The contract extension is worth up to, quote-unquote, $30 million. Now, we'll see what the actual money is when the details are leaked and they're given to the league, because as we know in the NFL, there's a lot of funny money. But right now it's being reported as a 3-year, $24 million contract extension for Peppers, worth up to $30 million. I love this deal. I love this deal. If you've watched this podcast since we began last September, almost a year now already, I've been talking about Peppers. And through last year, as we broke down the games, we talked about that miserable season. One of the only highlights to last year consistently was Jabrill Peppers. And if you've listened to me, if you've watched me over the past almost 1 year, you know that Peppers is one of my favorite players on this team. I love the guy. And I love what he did last year. And I love the effort that he gave last year during such a terrible, terrible season. I just can't get enough of Jabrill Peppers. He is a guy that I've wanted them to sign to an extension, and I am happy he gets this extension. Let's start here. He was a stud in 2023. You know, we can talk about his history. We could talk about the injuries. We could talk about him being a guy that never really reached his potential early on in his career, mostly due to the injuries. But he was a stud in 2023. He was one of the best players on this team. He was one of, and he could arguably be the best player on that defense a year ago. And when we talk about the 4-win team, we talk about how miserable the year was. We all know that defensively, the Patriots were fine. Top 10 in DVOA without Judon, without Gonzalez most of the year. And Peppers was a guy that was consistently out there. He was playing every day. He was giving you max effort. He was smashing people, making plays. Jabrill Peppers was one of your best football players last year and arguably the best defensive player in that locker room. So, yes, he absolutely deserved a contract extension. And I think it's a smart move by the Patriots, and it's smart business. Now, Peppers, he'll turn 29 in October, so a couple of months away from turning 29 years old, which you do some simple math, that means this contract extension, if he survives through its entirety, it will end at age 32. So Peppers, his contract extension will end when he's 32 years old, because he'll start the extension next year in 25, 3 years tacked on to this year. So age 30, age 31, age 32. So the deal is over at age 32, which is fine by me. 32 years old, you're starting to get close, right? And you don't want to extend guys into, 35, 36, 37 years old. That's danger territory, especially when you talk about a rebuilding team. But for somebody who's going to give you his age 29 through hopefully age 32 season, it makes sense. It's a fine extension given. It is a fine term. I have no issue with the 3-year term. I have no issue with giving Peppers a contract extension. Zero, zilch, nada. And now you have the future of safety locked in, at least for the next few years, right? You gave Duggar his contract. He's happy. He's locked in. You give Peppers his contract. He's happy. He's locked in. If there's one position defensively that we've talked about that could be a little bit thin, dependent on how Jalen Hawkins looks and if Marcus Jones is healthy, if he plays safety, even though he's been playing a ton of slot so far through the first couple days of camp, whether Jonathan Jones stays at outside cornerback too, or if he moves to the back end, or if he moves to the slot. It's just nice to know that you have two really good safeties locked up. You could argue that Peppers and Duggar are two of the top, 10 to 15 safeties in the league. And so now you have both of them happy, getting paid, and ready to be productive and contribute to this football team, not just in 2024, but in 25, 26, and 27. So I think it's smart business locking up this position with two high-quality players. And that's what Elliott Wolf has done with this deal and Peppers staying here through the next few years. And the thing about Peppers, and I mentioned this a little bit in passing a minute ago, he's a tone setter. He's somebody who sets the tone on the field, right? He doesn't take snaps off. He plays hard all the time. He smashes dudes. He has an attitude. He has a presence about him. He has a personality about him. And he really, his personality in the way that he approaches the game bleeds into other guys, bleeds into their approach. And so when you're rebuilding a football team, it is so critical to have the right guys in the locker room. And Peppers is one of those guys. Peppers is one of those players that he will teach the young guys how to practice, how to play, how to approach the game. He's going to help mentor some of the younger guys on this team. And that is on the field and that is off the field. And he just has this way about him. You hear him talk, you watch him play. The guys on the team love him. So he is just one of those dudes. He's a glue guy in that locker room. And when you're rebuilding and you're turning over a lot of talent, you're bringing a lot of young guys into the room. You have a lot of new coaches on the offensive side, but you have a lot of new going on with this franchise right now. And you want to make sure, what word has always been talked about since day one from Wolf and Mayo as they took over? Culture. Peppers is a culture guy. He's an absolute culture guy. He's going to make sure that you are on the right path. He's going to say the right things. He's going to act the right way. He's going to play as hard as you can possibly play. Whether you're up by 20 or down by 20, Jabrill Peppers, he is not going to give in. He is not going to give up. He's going to continue to be a professional. And when you have that kind of professionalism in the locker room, it's not a bad thing. So Peppers, the tone setter on and off the field, especially with where this team is right now. Critical juncture as they start this rebuild. Make sure that they have the right people, the right personalities in that room. Peppers is one of those leaders. He's one of those guys who's going to stand in the front of the room and give you his honesty. And he's going to give you what the world truly is in the NFL. Fought back from his injuries, played terrific last year. He's the right kind of guy you want. And especially when we talk about on the field, okay, when we just talk about skill level, he is a playmaker. He is an impact guy. And one of the things that Wolf and Mayo and Covington, they've talked about with the defense was 9th in DVOA last year. We've said it a ton, right? We know that that's been established. But one of the things that Covington has brought up, one of the things that Mayo has brought up, and we know they want to create more turnovers. The defense last year was 9th in DVOA, even though they did not turn teams over very often. That they didn't have many impact defensive plays when you talk about, creating and forcing fumbles, recovering fumbles, creating interception opportunities, pick sixes. They had a number of those back in 2022. I mean, Kyle Duggar alone was like a human turnover machine, right? But last year, they didn't have as many impact plays. And Peppers is somebody who does bring that to the table. he brings impact plays to this defense. He is somebody, he'll take some risks every once in a while, but he will take risks, and many times they will pay off. So when you talk about turning over an offense, when you talk about creating extra opportunities for your own offense, those impact plays, Peppers is that kind of guy. And the money. We'll get to the quarterbacks in a minute, but let's just finish up with the Jabrill Peppers breaking news. 3-year contract extension, $24 million, worth up to $30 million. The money is great. It's a good deal. It's a very good deal for Peppers because he is now locked in. He gets his long-term security. He said going back a week or two ago that he wants to be here in New England. Might have even been earlier this week. I think it was earlier this week. He wants to be here. He takes pride in being here. And so this locks him up long-term. He gets his security. He stays where he wants to stay. And for the Patriots, it is a great deal for them. It's a very fair deal. When you look at average annual value, Peppers will be making $8 million a year on the books. And when you look at the other safeties in the league, that slots Peppers at about 15th in football. So he's around the 15th highest paid safety in the league when you look at average annual value. I don't know about you. I certainly think you could consider Jabrill Peppers a top 15 safety in the NFL. So I think it's a very fair value. We know that the cap is going to go up in future years. In a year or two, this deal is going to look like a great contract. And Peppers and some other guys, they've started to kind of bridge the gap at safety. Duggar's near the top of the market. And a lot of times when you looked at safety, it went from 14, 15 million all the way down to like 6 or 7. Some of the guys now are starting to fill those cracks in between. Between the 7 million and 15 million, there's a slice now that are getting a piece of that pie right about in the middle of the money. So to put Peppers right there in that middle ground at 8 million a year, it's a very smart contract. All right, we'll get to the quarterback situation in just a minute. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. Every little bit helps, as you know. The numbers the last couple days have not been excellent. So we need all the support that we can get with those thumbs up. The eyeballs mean an awful lot to YouTube. That's how we build the community. By the way, Andrew Callahan just tweeted that Devon Gottschall is participating in opening positional drills, which is a change from yesterday. Gerard Mayo told the media this morning that Gottschall not being out there yesterday had nothing to do with his contract. Whether you believe that or not, that's up to you. Mayo said that Gottschall was suffering from a little bit of tightness. So Gottschall is back out there today. There is no sign of Christian Barmore. There is no sign of Marte Mapu. That's according to Evan Lazar of Patriots.com. So Barmore and Mapu not on the practice field, at least to start today. Barmore came out over the last day or two. He's had a little bit of an illness, so maybe he's just still trying to get over the sickness. But Barmore and Mapu not on the field at the beginning of practice. Gottschall is back on the field. All right, let's go to Thunder Francis before we go to the quarterbacks here in the Brissett May talk. $10 super chat. Thank you, Thunder Francis. Of course, you can send a super chat to jump to the front of the line, or if you want to help us out financially, contribute to the program, you can do that. Other way you can contribute to the program financially is signing up for the Patreon page. Bunch of exclusive content over there, patreon.com/Nick Cattles, Cattles, $5 a month, $1.25 a week. I mean, that's not even what? That's like one beer a month. If you drink beer, it's one drink a month, not even less than one beer a month, less than one drink a month for the Patreon exclusive content. Peppers is a beast. TV doesn't do justice to how hard he hits compared to seeing him live, similar to Rodney Harrison with game-changing hits. Yes, he's a guy that puts fear into the opposing offense, and you need a couple of those guys. You need a Peppers to be out there. A receiver saying, I don't want to go across the middle. Guys looking around, right? They're trying to figure out, where is Jabrill Peppers? Where's Duggar? Where are these guys that are going to lay the wood? Where are those guys at? You want offensive players to have their head on a swivel. You want that fear that Peppers can bring. And Peppers absolutely, unequivocally lays the wood. I mean, that dude drops the hammer on people. He's sideline to sideline. He's giving you 100% every single snap. I never go into a football game wondering if Peppers is going to, quote unquote, have it that day, have the juice. Oh, he's always got the juice. And yes, this is a part of football, right? Somebody who can go across and smash someone in the middle of the field. That's what you need. The attitude, the tone, the hitting, all that stuff. Appreciate the super chat, Thunder Francis. And I agree with you about Peppers. All right, let's get to the quarterback situation. So Mayo on Tuesday said that Jacoby Brissett is clearly the starting quarterback coming off the spring, right? Out of minicamp, Brissett clearly QB1. But he left the door open. He said as of right now, he talked about Drake Maye, and if Maye could ball out, if he could light things up, then he could absolutely leapfrog Brissett. So he left that door open. And while Jacoby Brissett is getting first-team snaps the first couple days of practice so far, the one thing that has really stood out to me is the fact that Brissett and Maye, for all intents and purposes, that they're splitting snaps. They're splitting snaps. They're getting the same amount of snaps, the same amount of reps in practice. So, yes, Brissett is right now QB1, but the fact that they're giving the same amount of reps to Drake Maye as they're giving Brissett should tell you they're keeping the door open, that this is a competition. Brissett's getting the snaps with the ones for the most part. We get it. But it's not a situation where Brissett is out there getting the majority of the snaps with the ones. Drake Maye goes out there and gets a handful of snaps, 6 or 7 snaps, 6 or 7 reps. And then you go to Bailey Zappi or Joe Milton. Yesterday it was Joe Milton. Gerard Mayo said this morning that they're going to split snaps between Milton and Zappi. They're going to flip-flop positions from day to day. So I would expect Zappi to be the third quarterback in the rotation today. But the fact that they're splitting 50-50 pretty much, the reps between Brissett and Maye tell you they're giving Maye that opportunity. And having a legitimate competition, giving Maye those reps is the right decision. It's the right decision for both guys. You want Brissett to hold on to the job, right? If you're the Patriots, you want Jacoby Brissett's mindset saying to himself, I have to keep this gig. This is my gig to keep. Maye's not going to wrestle this job from me. This is my job. I'm making a statement. I'm the starting quarterback week 1. You want that from Brissett. You also want Maye attacking. You want Maye to feel like I have an opportunity. I have a shot to be QB1. I've got a chance to leapfrog Brissett. I want that job. I should be the guy week 1. I want to make the statement. That's all about the competitiveness. And you get the best, I think, out of Brissett, and you get the best out of Maye if you handle this the way they're handling it. Splitting the reps, making this a competition, giving Drake Maye the opportunity to take the job from Brissett, giving Brissett the opportunity to run away from Drake Maye, so to speak. So this is how it should be. Set that competition and see who wins out. I still think it'll be Brissett at the end of the day starting week 1, but we'll see. Maybe Maye lights it up. And by the time we get to that joint practice on August 13th against the Eagles, we're talking about Maye having a legitimate opportunity on that day to take the job from Brissett. Wouldn't be a bad thing, right? If the 3rd overall pick earns the starting job, looks good enough to take that starting job from Brissett, not a bad thing at all. So we'll see how this continues to progress throughout camp. But through the first couple of days, it's pretty much 50-50. Brissett gets 12 reps and Maye gets 12 reps. Brissett gets 13, Maye gets 13. So the competition is there. And I asked the question, is Brissett that far ahead? Because Mayo said earlier in the week, Brissett is clearly ahead after the spring. Well, the fact that they're going 50-50 with reps, should that tell us that Brissett is really not that far ahead? He's ahead, and he's clearly ahead, but he's not miles ahead of Maye. Because the way they're splitting these reps tell you that they don't see Brissett being far and away the better quarterback in camp, right? If they thought that, they would make that statement by giving Brissett the majority of the snaps during camp. That's not what's happening here. So Brissett is ahead. How far ahead? That seems to be subjective. And it's going to be fascinating to see if Maye can start creeping up more and more and more on Brissett. Because if there's not that huge gap in between those two guys, it might not take a ton from Drake Maye to leapfrog Brissett. And there's no doubt also, let's just say this. We talk about flashes during camp. We talk about flash plays, right? We talk about this idea of what was the best play in camp. You hear everybody say that, right? What was the best play of the day? What was the top play of the day? Maye's flashes are going to be sexier than Brissett's flashes because Maye just has more talent. He has much more potential. His ceiling is much higher than Brissett's. So through the first couple of days of camp, you've already heard people saying the two plays that stood out to me, this Drake Maye throw, that Maye throw. Yesterday, it was a Maye throw to Jalen Polk. So we're going to have these moments. And I think that Maye is going to have more of those moments because his style of play and his overall talent is going to make it possible for more of those moments to come out during camp. He's going to have some of those wows. I don't know if you're going to have a lot of wows from Jacoby Brissett. He is the veteran quarterback. He's the steady guy. He's QB1 mentoring the young guy. Maye is the flashy gunslinger, ultra talented dude. So he's going to pop on the field more than Brissett. It's just whether or not Maye can be consistent. If Maye brings the consistency along with those flashy plays from time to time, that's when Brissett's job as QB1 is officially in trouble. But I expect a lot of these flashes from Maye. I expect a lot of people writing about it and talking about it saying, man, did you see that Maye throw 35, 40 yards down the field on the run across his body? Did you see that? We're going to hear a lot about that stuff because that's his talent level. And the Patriots, they're being a little bit more aggressive with Maye than I thought they would, honestly. I thought they would be a little conservative. I thought it would be, hey, yes, we saw what we saw in minicamp, but we get to training camp. Brissett's the guy. No doubt Brissett's going to get, 15 to 20 reps while Drake Maye gets, 7 to 10. But that's not the case. So they're being more aggressive with Maye to get him going and to treat this as a competition. And I am pleasantly surprised by that. I am all for that. Competition brings out the best in everybody. So I'm all for it. I'm all for them being aggressive. Don't overwhelm the guy, but he doesn't seem overwhelmed. And as long as he doesn't seem overwhelmed, keep giving him the reps. Keep the competition going. See how much you can get out of him. And it'll also be interesting to see how many snaps Maye gets once the real football begins. And what I'm talking about is I'm talking about pads that'll actually be a part of practice come Monday. Monday, these guys will be in the pads. So once they're in the pads, they're hitting each other. You have physical contact. Will that change the amount of snaps? Will we look at this and say, well, it was the early stages, the very early stages of training camp, and they gave Maye the snaps at that point to kind of get his feet wet. But then once the pads came on, once the real football started to be played, then you saw Brissett get more snaps than Maye, and Maye kind of took a step back. We'll see. I mean, this might be a trial period for Maye, right? Which I'm all for. This might be a trial period for Maye to try to chase Brissett, and they'll see how he looks through the first 5 practices or so. And then early next week, pads come on. Okay, Maye has earned the shot to be out there with pads, splitting reps with Brissett. Interesting stuff. I'll be on 98.5 The Sports Hub tonight from 7 to 11 going solo if you want to spin by. I'll also be on 98.5 on Sunday afternoon solo from 2 to 5. So tonight, 7 to 11, Sunday, 2 to 5. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as you watch this podcast today. All of those things help us tremendously. The thumbs up help us tremendously. Spotify, Apple Pods, rate and review. Let's talk about the offensive line for a couple of minutes here. because it's something that I'm keeping a very close eye on, and I think many of us should be keeping a close eye on. By the way, Andrew Callahan, 53 seconds ago, tweeted out that Christian Barmore and Marte Mapu walked into practice 20 minutes after it started. Helmets in hand, both are in uniform. So Barmore and Mapu were not out there at the beginning of practice. They are now out there, helmets in hand, both in uniform. We'll see what their activity level is. But Barmore and Mapu are now on the practice field. Offensive line. We've talked a lot about the offensive line, what to expect, what not to expect. I think it's telling so far that, days 1 and 2, Mike Onwenu was playing right guard. He was right guard for pretty much every snap with the ones. Onwenu has not touched right tackle yet. And Chuks Okorafor yesterday, speaking with the media, he said that, it's pretty much an open competition on the offensive line, save for Dave and Mike. David Andrews, as we know, starting center. He's going nowhere. And Mike, as in Mike Onwenu. So Okorafor told us yesterday that there are 3 spots up for grabs. 2 spots taken. We got Andrews playing center, where he's been from the beginning of his career. And we have Onwenu, who now has played at right guard during minicamp the vast majority of the time, and so far has taken all of his snaps at right guard throughout the early stages of this training camp. So according to Okorafor, Onwenu is settled, which should tell us that Onwenu is settled at right guard. That question has been answered. Now, funky things can happen. Maybe Onwenu shows up at right tackle today. Who the hell knows? And I'll be paying attention to the updates like I've been doing through the first 25 minutes or so of this pod. And if Onwenu's out there at right tackle for a couple of snaps, I will certainly let you know. But right now, it sounds like Onwenu is right guard. He's settled. He's locked in. Andrews is settled and locked in at center. And I do think there's going to be some questioning if the rotation continues at right tackle about Elliot Wolf's evaluation of the offensive line. Because Caden Wallace, he's in the mix at right tackle. He's not getting nearly as many snaps as, Calvin Anderson did day 1 and Verdarian Lowe got in day 2. Now, that might change. Again, these guys hit the field today. They're out there practicing. Maybe Caden Wallace gets his day. Maybe Wallace gets his day at right tackle today. But so far, Wallace is nowhere to be found on the left side. Okorafor, by the way, even though he said that Dave and Mike are settled, Okorafor seems pretty settled at left tackle. He's been there. He was in there in minicamp, and he's been there through the first couple days of training camp. So it feels like Scott Peters and Robert Kugler, they might have actually 4 spots sealed up. You might be looking at Okorafor left tackle because he's been there from day 1. They have not moved him. Again, this is all subject to change. But so far, Okorafor has been your everyday left tackle. Sidy Sow has been your everyday left guard. David Andrews has been your everyday center. And Mike Onwenu has, for all intents and purposes, been your everyday right guard. Right tackle is kind of the flippity-floppity rotation thing going on. Anderson, Lowe, Wallace getting a few snaps. So, but we do have to look at this, and Elliot Wolf's evaluation of the offensive line is under a microscope. Is Okorafor going to work at left tackle? Is moving Sow back to left guard the best idea? You said that you paid Onwenu as a tackle. You came out and you said that you signed the best right tackle in free agency. Now he's playing right guard. You drafted Wallace. You said Wallace is going to be a left tackle, or you thought he could be a left tackle. He's not really touching the left side. Now, there's 2 sides to this story. We can look at that and say Elliot Wolf was wrong a number of different ways. He was wrong thinking Onwenu was going to dedicate himself and be a right tackle. Now he's at right guard again, right? We can say, oh, well, he was wrong about Caden Wallace, and he said that Caden Wallace could play the left side, but he's playing the right side. We could look at it that way, or this could be the case of we just want to play our top 5. So we don't know if this is out of necessity that they're rotating the right tackle spot because they're just trying to find somebody to plug holes, or if it's no. We think our best offensive line is Okorafor, Sow, Andrews, Owenu, from left to right, and whoever fits at right tackle fits at right tackle. But we feel like we've got at least 4 of the 5 spots. We'll see how it continues to go up front. But it feels like they have a handle on 4 of the 5 spots, at least to start camp. Now, everything can change next week when the pads come on. If a core 4 looks like a sieve at left tackle, that can change the world. Continue with more thoughts in a minute. But Teresa Grant coming in with a $50 super chat. My goodness, Terry, thank you so much. First time getting a chance to watch live this week. Camp week in caps, exclamation point. Thanks, Nick. Thank you, Terry. You have supported the program from, I don't know if it was day 1, but if not, it was probably day 2. You've been here from the very beginning. You have supported me financially. You have said so many nice things on Facebook, and you are a Patreon member. I can't say enough about those who support me. It means the world to me. And Terry, you've been near the front of the line, if not at the front of the line from the very beginning. So thank you. I am always overwhelmed by super chats, especially super chats when we're talking $50. It's a lot. You know, if you're willing to pay, you're willing to give $50 to contribute to this program. That's 50 hard-earned dollars. And I don't take that for granted. So thank you so much, Terry. That means a lot to me. Some other offensive line thoughts. If this O-line, I've said this, but if this O-line is as bad as 2023, it's an epic fail from Elliott Wolf, and it will be treated as an epic fail, and I will criticize Wolf heavily. But we're not there yet. So I think we take a deep breath. We're going into day 3 of training camp. Let's see when the pads come on. Let's see at joint practices. Let's see through the preseason. Let Peters and Kugler keep their hands on these guys and work with them and continue to develop them. But if we're talking about this O-line being an atrocity week 4, week 5 of the regular season, it's going to look really bad for Wolf. And it should look really bad for Wolf. Because after what we've seen, especially last year, and how bad that O-line was for the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, it's inexcusable if they roll out an O-line this year and through the first month and a half, they look like crap. Inexcusable. Wolf has to be right. I've said this. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to sit here and this line's going to be awful. It hasn't looked great. It didn't look good in minicamp. Yesterday, they had a tough day. But let's see. It's early. Let's see how they look through camp. And maybe they have to shuffle a couple of guys around to figure out who is their best 5. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give them the chance to be proven right. But if they are proven wrong, and Wolf was wrong on a core 4 playing left tackle, and he was wrong about Caden Wallace being worthy of a 3rd-round pick, then yes, I will be here to criticize Wolf up and down for that. But it's still early. I think all of us have a little bit of offensive line PTSD over the past couple of years, right? There's just like some inherent worry about the O-line. It's the offensive line PTSD, and it's reasonable to have it. It's reasonable to have concerns because of what we saw. And it's not like these guys are dominating through the early portion of camp. But again, it's early. They have time. And I wonder if Elliott Wolf will pivot at a certain point. If this continues, a week, 2 weeks down the road, you get to that joint practice, will Wolf pivot and bring another body or 2 into camp? We'll see. All right. One more thing to talk about before I bid you adieu. Again, I'm working tonight at 98.5 The Sports Hub, 7 to 11. I'll be on the air. I'll be on Sunday as well, 2 to 5. If you want to contribute to the show, Terry just contributed with a $49.99 super chat, which is just unbelievable. If you don't like sending super chats, if you're not comfortable sending super chats, maybe you don't watch the show live, so you can't send super chats. Another way that people contribute to the show and contribute to me is the Patreon page. It's $5 a month, $1.25 a week. That's it. $1.25 a week. You get a bunch of exclusive content. If you like how I cover the Patriots, we do Red Sox, Celtics, and Bruins talk there. So it's patreon.com/Nick Cattles, Cattles. And by the way, Patreon members, I will be cutting an off-the-cuff podcast in a couple of hours for all of you. So be on the lookout for that. So like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. And if you would like, check out the Patreon page for $5 a month. If not, I will not take it personally. All right, let's wrap up with Jalen Polk. Polk is getting lots and lots of reps through the first couple days of camp. He's working with the ones and he's working with the twos, and he's getting targets. He's getting plenty of targets. He's getting plenty of reps. He's getting plenty of looks, and I adore this approach. I love the idea. This football team needs a young wide receiver to show out. Now, Pop is young. I'm talking about a wide receiver that's not in the slot. They need a non-slot wide receiver option who is young that brings production to this football team. It would be significant. It would be so significant if Jalen Polk can break through in his rookie year. And what's a breakthrough? If he can catch 50 footballs, if he can give you 50 catches for 600 yards, a handful of touchdowns, just to have that productivity from one of your young non-slot wide receivers would be significant for this offense. So I love seeing them playing Polk a lot. I love seeing all the snaps that he's getting, all of those reps. It's a statement. There's no other way to take that but as a statement from the coaching staff that they trust Jalen Polk. You know, day one of training camp, this guy's out there getting a lot of run. That tells you the coaching staff trusts him. They trust the young rookie. They believe he's doing the right things. They trust that he's going to be ahead of the curve. And that means an awful lot. You know, they're not trying to, and it goes back to Elliott Wolf when he first took the job, right? One of his first meetings with the media, he made it a point. We're going to play our young guys. We're not going to run away from the young guys anymore. I don't think you're going to see what happened with Pop Douglas a year ago when he fumbled against Miami and he was benched for a couple of weeks, and then he had to slowly get back into the good graces of the coaching staff. I don't think this staff is going to handle the young players like that. If they make a mistake, I think those guys are going to be put right back into the game to prove that they learned from those mistakes. And you've got Polk already looking like, you know, he's wide receiver one regarding reps. He's out there like he's the most trusted dude at wide receiver with this offense early on in camp. Obviously it can change. A lot of this can change. It's early in camp. I'll say that a number of times over the next week or two. But to start off, that means a lot. Because if you're starting off day one with Polk out there, getting the reps like he's the number one guy, or at least in the conversation to be the number one guy of this team, that's precisely what you want, right? That's why you drafted him in the second round. You want to see that guy produce. You want to see that guy get these reps. You want to see him prove that he can be, you know, not a wide receiver one in the NFL, even though that would be tremendous. I think he's more of a 2. I think his ceiling is a 2, but you want to see him prove that he can be the top receiver for this football team, at least until Kendrick Bourne comes back. Again, talking non-slot. So this is a statement from the staff. They trust Jalen Polk. And the fact that he's out there early allows him to get some chemistry with the quarterbacks, right? He's working with Brissett. He's working with Maye. He's getting that chemistry. He's repping with the ones and the twos. He's repping with both quarterbacks. Why is that? It goes back to what we talked about regarding the quarterback situation. If Drake Maye wins the quarterback competition and is your starting quarterback week one of the season, well, now you had Jalen Polk taking reps with Maye. He wasn't just taking reps with Brissett. If Brissett holds on to QB1, just as I said, Polk was getting reps with Brissett as well. So no matter who the quarterback is, the way that this team is approaching practice and the way that they're handling these reps between the quarterbacks and Jalen Polk, it tells us they are going to rely on Polk a lot this season. They are going into this season with expectations for their rookie receiver. And maybe Javon Baker can make a push. He's off to a slower start. He missed minicamp with the injury, the fracture to his finger, but he's back out there now. Maybe in the next week to 10 days, we're talking about Javon Baker making a little bit of a push, which would be fantastic. Again, if you could get both young wide receivers to hit, man, oh man, would that help this team an awful lot. But give Polk the reps. Let him iron out some of the wrinkles that he might have as a rookie. and I've said this from the beginning, and I stand by this. Polk is going to contribute early. As long as he is healthy, he is going to contribute to this team week 1. He is not going to be a Tyquan Thornton. He is not going to be, sorry to Maryland, a listener, I don't want to give you the trigger. He's not going to be a N'Keal Harry. Polk, I think, will be out there day 1. He will be producing day 1. I'm not telling you week 1 against Cincinnati is going to have 150 receiving yards, but he's going to be out there, and he's going to be a significant piece of this puzzle. All right, I remind all of you that starting next week through camp, so starting Monday through joint practices on August 13th, that joint practice against the Eagles, from Monday through August 13th, which is a Tuesday, we will be going live at 4 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern, so we can all take in the practice. I'll be at several of the practices moving forward. I can come back home. I can get my notes sorted, put together, and we will give you that report of what happened during camp that day, instead of feeling like I'm a day and a half late on some of this stuff, right? So starting on Monday, and we'll go back after the practice, after the joint practice on August 13th, we'll go back to our usual 11 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's what we'll do from that point forward during the season, all that stuff. But just for the next couple of weeks, we're going to tweak the time so it makes more sense, so we can cover what happened on that day of practice, and so I can get out to some of these practices, which should give you guys better information as you visit the podcast. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It means an awful lot to us. That's how we build this community. That's the chance that we get to survive. So like, comment, subscribe, rate and review, Spotify, Apple Pods. Everybody have a great weekend. It's supposed to be tremendous weather, so enjoy that. I'm on 98.5 tonight, 7 to 11, and Sunday, 2 to 5. Thank you for joining me. We'll talk to you on Monday at 4 o'clock. Until then, it's the Nick Cattle Show.